Welcome back to another 12th Man podcast. We're delighted to have Owen Kelly back with us. They look ahead to Saturday's football. Of course, we had the Cameron McJannet podcast on Thursday night. Well, the first half of it anyway. The second half was abandoned, unfortunately, due to audio issues. Cameron was a wee bit disappointed, but he has told us that he will be coming back on to finish that podcast. So that will be coming up. Owen, a wee bit strange. We're doing a podcast during a match here. Of course, Newcastle Man City has just kicked off in the last 6 minutes or so, and it is 0-0, so we'll keep you updated with any scores. For anyone that's joining us to watch, we'll keep you updated on. Of course, I'm sure there's many ways you can watch the game and listen to the podcast now in this modern era.
I'm on the podcast. I'm on the podcast now. I'm watching it.
Well, I've kind of got no script here at all. Usually I'm well prepared, well planned. But I'm absolutely all over the place. The minute with football, Derry City, my own coaching, podcasts, at work, it's frantic. So
let's not mention Derry after last night's debacle.
Well, awful result for Derry City, and it leaves their title aspirations now.
And the bum.
More difficult. But we'll start off by talking about the Newcastle and Man City game here. It has just kicked off. But we'll try and it is very early on, so what we'll try and do is almost talk about it as if it hasn't kicked off, and we will keep you updated if anything does go on. I mean, let's start with Man City because Rodri Man City and Arsenal have dominated the news this week for the spot, and we'll talk about that. But Rodri, of course, is a pretty significant injury. Pep Guardiola confirmed yesterday his season's over. His win percentage when he plays for Man City is 87%. When Man City have been missing him, it drops 20%, 21% down. So almost a fifth of the games that they won with Rodri, they don't win without him. And that's over a 2 or 3 year period. I think it might be the last 2 full seasons, actually. I've seen it. Yeah. So that is a big loss. No matter how good you are, you always miss important players. And there's an argument that Rodri as the best player in the league in terms of maybe not the most skillful, maybe not the most, he's not a Mohamed Salah, like a goal threat, but in regarding to the importance to a team, when Man City don't have Rodri, the stats show they're a lot more beatable. And this is a player that won the Premier League last year in Man City, was part of a treble winning team, won the Euros with Spain, so he was widely regarded as one of the favourites for the Ballon d'Or, and rightly so. How much of an impact do you think this will have in Man City's season?
As much as he's a big miss, and just as you're saying that, I hope he recovers well. I don't like seeing our fans saying, "Oh, I'm glad he's out for the season." I don't agree with that. So I hope he recovers well, and I hope he comes back to his best. But in terms of that, it's a big miss for Man City. It would get into any team in the world. I think, like any team in the world would take Rodri, and you've seen the links already. The Real Madrid sort of for next summer. Well, it puts the kibosh on it now because you don't know how he's going to come back. But it'll impact Man City. But like I don't think they'll drop out of the. I don't think they'll fall off a cliff. Like I still think, for me, they're still favourites for the league, but it's a lot closer now between Arsenal and City, and maybe Liverpool if we can put a run together. So it is a big miss for City, but I still have them as one in the league in me.
Of course. Not just this Rodri injury, but of course they dominate the news for the charges against them. And of course, there is a verdict expected shortly on their appeal against the thing that they're taking the Premier League up for. Obviously, the charges will come later in the year, pending the outcome of the case. But there's a lot of noise around Man City at the moment, and the fact that Rodri's injured as well. Could this be the motivation that maybe some question Man City would have? They've done the 4 in a row, they've won a treble. Would winning it without Rodri and up against all these sort of the charges in the background, will that be the motivation for Pep now, if he needed any, to go and win a 5th Premier League title?
To be honest, I don't think he needs
it.
A
lot of people think with Rodri missing, they aren't able to do it. So is that the motivation that he'll have? They say to the squad, right, people think we're done without Rodri. Can you go and win it now without Rodri? And that's probably, that would be his biggest achievement, probably, he would say.
It would be, but a man like Pep, I don't think he needs any motivation to go and win things. Like, he is literally nothing to prove. He's probably the best manager second best manager, whatever you want to look at it in the Premier League history. So I don't think he needs much motivation to tell his team to go on and win because let's be honest, every season they're expected to go and win the league and challenge for every trophy. And so I think it'll just be business as usual and it'll just find a way to cope without Rodri.
Yeah, of course, today's team news: Newcastle, Nick Pope and goal, back four of Trippier, Sher, Dan Burn, Lewis Hall, and a left back, Tonali, Bruno, Gimenez, and Joelinton in midfield, Jacob Murphy and Harvey Barnes on the flanks, and of course, Anthony Gordon is playing as a striker or a false nine, if you like, without Alexander Isak. Man City's team: Ederson and goal, Kyle Walker, Ruben Diaz, Akanji, and Gavardiol in the back four. Rico Lewis comes on for Rodri in midfield. Kovacic and Gundogan on beside him. Bernardo Silva and Grealish is on side forwards behind the remarkable Erling Haaland. Look at them teams. Of course, Rodri's a big loss, but you could argue Isak's just as big a loss for Newcastle today.
Yeah, like as much as Anthony Gordon's a great player, he's not a vocal point. He's not gonna hold the ball up. He's not gonna spun players. So I think Isak is a big miss for Newcastle, especially in a big game like this when they're not gonna have a lot of the ball and Man City are gonna dominate majority of the game. But Newcastle at home, you never know. They're a tough team to beat at home. I mean, the only team under Eddie Howe, the only team they haven't beat at St James's Park is Liverpool, surprisingly. So that just shows you how difficult it is to go to St James's. So I don't think Man City will have it all their way, but I actually fancy Newcastle to get a draw here, but we'll see if that comes to fruition.
What's your score prediction for this game?
I'll go 1-1.
1-1. Almost 12 minutes played here, and it is 0-0, and it's kind of the game you expected. Man City having a lot of the ball, but Newcastle look dangerous on the counter attack. And that's kind of the game that it'll be. I think Newcastle will be happy to surrender possession and wait for those moments on the counter attack. Of course, this game last year was a classic. Newcastle were 2-1 down or 2-1 up, and De Bruyne come on and changed the game, scored, and set up the goal for Oscar Bob in the last minute. And that was the moment where he thought Man City would go on to win the league, and of course they did. Of course, they will not have De Bruyne off the bench today. He's still unavailable. Newcastle last time out, losing to Fulham. And there's an argument, Owen, that Newcastle are fortunate they have the points they have. First game of the season, down to 10 men, of course, but Southampton probably should have got at least a draw, if not won the game.
Yeah.
They were fortunate to get a draw at Bournemouth. Of course, the VAR intervened on the Bournemouth handball, which everyone agreed it wasn't. And I think Howard Webb said on the show that the VAR should never got involved because it's not conclusive. The Spurs game, of course, Spurs probably deserved at least a draw. And the Wolves game as well, they were battered and they scored 2 goals. Harvey Barnes, of course, scored a screamer. And last week they were well beaten by Fulham, and I think a lot of people were saying that result was coming. Is that a worry for Newcastle at the moment? That yes, it's okay to get results when you're not playing well, but there has been no real top performance in those early games, and if it continues like that, it's going to be difficult to win games. So, is that something that Newcastle need to improve as the season goes on? Because I could see that result coming a mile off last week.
Oh, definitely, and you've seen some Newcastle fans saying that as well. Like they haven't played well, or they haven't sustained a good period in games where they've dominated games, I know they were down to 10 men, but they should still be dominant in a team like Southampton. Spurs should have scored more. Wolves should have had a few in the bag by the time that Newcastle were level in front. Oh, is there a chance here? No, thought there was a chance there. But they have rode their luck, and they're sitting on 10 points, I think it is.
Yeah,
10 points, and you could argue that they should have maybe only 3.
Yeah, and they probably would have taken that the start of the season, only 3 points off the top of the league after 5 games. Of course, this game today, a huge test for them against Man City. But like equal for Man City to come out. I mean, if they were to lose to Man City and Rodri missing, all of a sudden that blows up. I think if they come out and won today away at a place like Newcastle, which notoriously is quite tough for visiting teams to go, it kind of puts the Rodri thing to bed for at least a wee bit. So you're going 1-1. I think, unfortunately, Man City will be too strong. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Man City win.
They're not very good at the back, Man City teams that you can get at.
Yeah, all the weekend's games are running across the bottom of your screen there. Of course, Newcastle and Man City 0-0 after 15 minutes here. The 3 o'clock games start at the Emirates. Arsenal take on Leicester. Then it is Brentford against West Ham. Then we have, seeing it here on my screen, we've got Arsenal, Leicester. Yeah, we've got Brentford and West Ham, and we'll speak about that because that's a huge game for West Ham, I think, for Lopetegui. We've got Chelsea against Brighton, which is always an interesting game. A lot of former players probably lining up for Chelsea against their former club Brighton. Everton, Crystal Palace is another big game. Sean Dyche, a lot of rumours about his future. Nottingham Forest take on Fulham in the final 3 o'clock game. Then it's 5:30 where Wolves take on Liverpool. Arne Slot's had a wonderful start to his Liverpool career. Of course, the one blip coming at home to Forest. Then it's Super Sunday tomorrow. Ipswich take on Aston Villa. Man United versus Spurs is probably the glamour game this weekend. And Bournemouth take on Southampton on the Monday Night Football. So some interesting games there. Darren's thinking that City could 1-2-1. There's kind of big games where we look there, Owen. But I'm going to start with the Man United and Spurs game because I think that is the most glamorous game this weekend. Might not be the best one because both teams, of course, aren't probably where they want to be after 5 games. But it's a big game for both managers. I think probably more for Man United because there is a lot of talk about Ten Hag's future. How do you see this game go? I mean, let's speak about Man United because they got that big result against Barnsley, didn't they? Beat them 7, and then they go to Southampton and get a 1. 3-0, of course. It looked great on paper, but the first 30 minutes of that, they were outplayed, and Southampton missed a penalty. Yeah. Palace last week, they had chances, but also Palace did as well. Of course, that Onana double save, reminiscent of David Raya.
Eze as well should have put them 1-0 up.
Yeah, and then, of course, Europa League starts during the week, and you think AFC 20 at home, that should be light work, and they draw 1-1. And the goal they conceded was reminiscent of so many goals last year they conceded. And there's a lot of people saying that it needs to get better. It needs to get better fast. Do you think some of the Man United fans that were kind of behind Ten Hag or on the border have started to look the other way now? I think third season on this has got to improve and their patience is running out.
There's still a few United fans that I know saying that he's still the man. But for me, as an outsider, he doesn't seem to know his best 11. His substitutions or lack of are awful. I don't know if you've seen the United game the other night, but Bruno Fernandes, I watched the highlights because I was obviously watching the Liverpool game at the same time. But Bruno Fernandes couldn't pass a parcel that night, and even against Palace, it was shocking as well. So I don't know why he doesn't get subbed off at all. And the substitution, Rashford played himself on the form, then he was dropped against Palace. They're not conceding as many chances, but the chances they are conceding, teams should be scoring. As I said, Palace should have nicked to 1-1. Even they are in against 20. They could have scored a couple more goals. As you said, the goal they did concede was a mistake from Eriksen, and then the keeper was beat at his near post, which is shocking at that level.
Yeah, of course, Spurs as well are another team that have had a topsy-turvy start to the season. And says after the Chelsea game last year in the Monday Night Football, they would have a crack with 5 players when they had 9. And of course, they went out to 10 men on Thursday night after just 7 minutes, and they did not change their style of play. They went at Quarabag, created chances, but also conceded a lorry load of chances. Quarabag's action was quite poor. I mean, some Spurs fans are loving it. Some are scratching their head. They think that's a bit mad. Of course, we had the Man City Arsenal game last week where on Arsenal with down to 10 men, they played a completely different way the Spurs did. Spurs get the 1 and a good one on paper, a 3-0 1 to start the Europa League campaign. But what was your thoughts on that Spurs? When they got into 10 men, they didn't really change and they just kept pouring men forward. Even when they were 1-2-0, they were still doing it.
You come to expect it now from manager, as you said there after the Chelsea game last season when he's had 9 players, he said he wasn't going to change. So if he's not going to change against Chelsea, he's definitely not going to change against, no disrespect, the quarterback, but he's not going to change against them. And as you say, as much as Spurs created chances, quarterback could have and probably should have had 2-3 goals themselves, and they missed a penalty, which was one of the worst penalties I've seen in a very long time.
Darren saying he thinks it could be a 0-0. I'll be shocked if it's a 0-0 on Sunday, I'll tell you that. But
I think
getting back to Spurs, I mean, Ange said at the fans forum on Monday night that somebody, it was basically, it was floored to the questions. Selected fans were put there, and they
Mm.
had the opportunity to ask whoever they wanted a question between Daniel Levy, who come under fire, Ange Postecoglou, Heung-min Son, um, the sporting director, Lange, John Lange, and there was a female footballer as well from the women's team. So those five were present. And somebody says about one of the fans asked about success, and do we have to be a bit more pragmatic to get success? Can they play that way and win anything? And says he wouldn't swap his style of play for success. He says the only way he wants to win is by this style of play. What do you think of that? I mean, he's basically saying he won't adapt for anybody, regardless of the opponent. They're either going to win or lose playing this way. Is that is that brave? Is that naive? Or is it, should Spurs take pride in that? You know, we're going to go about it our way, and we're not going to adapt for anybody. We've seen what
Well,
Arsenal did on Sunday. With 10 men, we seen what they did last year, even with 11 men against Man City, and they didn't lose that game at Man City Stadium. But I'm just saying that we're not going to change. We're going to do it our way or no way.
like, put Spurs in Arsenal's position last week. I think it would have ended about 5-1. Put,
Yeah.
put, put it that way, which is mad. Is it brave? Aye. Is it stupid? Aye. It's about both. You know what I mean? But fair play to him. Like, he's a man that likes to stick to his principles. But for me, I think in certain games you have to realize, right, this isn't going our way. Let's change it. But he doesn't seem to want to. But whether that brings success in the long term for Spurs is a completely different question. I know, like, he's only won a cup, but he's of Man City in the Carabao Cup. Now, Pep came out and said he'll probably play his second team, but his second team's probably still better than Spurs' first team. Let's be honest. So it's
See, see
it's
the thing about it though, right? How many managers change their style of play, really? I mean,
yeah,
Liverpool's start under Klopp was rocky. I remember some games they were losing 3-0 away from home. They Watford, for example, getting involved in 5-4s at Norwich. And Klopp never really changed his style of play. Yes, he went and signed better players, but he never altered his style of play. He went with that gun-ho attacking, and we'll get the rewards over the risks. They did concede goals, but they scored more than the opposition at times. And other times, maybe their goalkeeper, Van Dijk, pulled them out with great defending or great goalkeeping when they did get on behind them.
yeah.
So, I mean, is that something that players are going to buy into? If Ange says we're going to play this way, and then when we come against Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, we're going to sit back and soak it up. Does that maybe question, the players think, well, does he not think we're good enough to go and match these teams? Or do you think he has to go through this short-term pain until he maybe gets more quality in? Because I do think the Spurs squad this year is better than the Spurs squad last year, but it's not where it needs to be if they're going to challenge the likes of Man City, Arsenal, and Liverpool. But he probably needs maybe an hour window and maybe even 2 summer windows to get to that level. But the question will be, will he be backed? They do that. What Klopp did, what Arteta's done, what Pep's done. Spurs have never been a club to go and back a manager like that. And you suppose you could say Liverpool went about it with a different way, selling Coutinho, and they used that money wisely. But like with Spurs, that we Kane. But will he get the time? Will he get the patience of those managers?
It just depends how it goes. If Spurs, let's just say for argument's sake, Spurs go and win an FA Cup, but finish, let's just say, eighth, would you say that's a good season? Like,
On paper, it looks okay because you've won
nah,
a trophy, but we've seen this way Man United. How
that's
long
what
does
I
that
mean.
FA Cup one appease Man United fans? Because I'm already seeing some turning because they don't really see any progression on the pitch. Yes, they've won 2 trophies, but I think Juan de Ramos won a League Cup at Spurs, but he wasn't
Yeah,
a better manager for Spurs than Pochettino was, if you know what I mean.
no. He ended up at Real Madrid then, didn't he? Which was mad. No, but you see Ten Hag coming out and saying, but we won the FA Cup and we won this and we won the League Cup. But United fans are going, aye, but we were crap everywhere else. Champions League was a disaster. League was a disaster. So,
I think
yeah.
Ange did say this week that he understands that results are important. It's not just all about styles of play and whatever.
Yeah.
But I suppose he's won his last 3 games, albeit games he was expected to win. Coventry in the cup, which they made hard work of. Brentford was a good performance despite falling behind early on, and they swept Quarterback aside despite them chances they conceded with the 10 men. But this is more of a test because the record against the better teams, definitely in the second part of last season, was pretty poor.
Yeah.
You think about losing away at Liverpool, losing away at Newcastle, losing away at Chelsea, losing to Man City and Arsenal at home. The results were really, really poor in that second part of the season. So, and you look at this season, they lost at Newcastle, albeit maybe they played a lot better than they did last year, and they lost the Arsenal at home with a set piece thing still in the background. And this is the next test. Now you go into Man United, where Spurs actually got 4 points against Man United last year. They won at the home game and drew at Man United with all those players missing. Of course, they had injuries and they had Son away at the Asian Cup and a couple of our players at the African Cup of Nations. But there's no excuses for Spurs this weekend, is there?
No, is Son fit? Because I know he went off at the weekend.
I'm hearing he trained today, so it's looking like he will be tired. I think he was about tired on it, but I think he's in contention. There's no excuses for Spurs this weekend. I mean, if they lose to Man United, it's kind of like, well, they might beat the Brentfords and they might beat the Crystal Palaces and they might beat the Evertons, but when it comes against anybody in the top 8 or 9, it's going to be a big struggle. So this is an important game for them this weekend.
It is, but United are the same. Their record against the top teams as well is not great. I know we didn't beat them last season.
I do think this is a huge game for both managers, possibly bigger for Ten Hag because United are a bigger club. There's more pressure. They're at home. But
I would say
it's huge for both managers.
I would say if Spurs won tomorrow, I think Ten Hag is under serious pressure. And if United win tomorrow, there'll be question marks of fans, but I don't think I think Ten Hag's at risk of getting sacked if it goes really bad, but I don't think Ange is.
Yeah, no, I do get the feeling that the board are behind Ange, and I do think unless results were really bad. But I also think as well, Spurs have had the performances other than that Coventry game. The Arsenal game, they didn't play that well, but they lost it on a set piece. Arsenal didn't really create much either. The other games have had more chances than the opposition. So
sort of the opposite to Newcastle, isn't it? They haven't been playing well and getting results, and you have been playing well and you haven't.
That has to change. And I think if they were to win on Sunday against United, it's 4 in a row in all competitions, and you go into the final week before the break. Fair and Chiaros away, very winnable, and then of course Brighton away will be difficult. But if you go into the Brighton game on the back of 5-1s,
and
you get a result there or even draw there, people would say that's a fairly decent run of results. Owen, how do you see this game going on Sunday? I mean, I do think there'll be goals, but I think Spurs will have a lot of possession, and United will be happy to play in the counter attack. But it's going to be who's the more clinical.
I'm going to go for a repeat of last season at Old Trafford. I'm going to go 2-2.
2-2. Man City still being held at Newcastle 0-0. Newcastle just clearing a chance there at the back post. It'll be a Man City corner. It's just 27 and a half minutes played. Still 0-0. Newcastle at the minute look fairly comfortable on.
I've been keeping my eye on it. They've had a few counter attacks, and Man City haven't really troubled them. But we'll see what comes from this corner here.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to back Spurs here because I do think it'll be tight. Yeah, but I'm gonna just back Ange to get it right here and get the result. I'm gonna go for a 2-1 Spurs 1.
Spurs 1.
Let's tomorrow Ipswich against Aston Villa. That is your first game on Super Sunday. That is the warm-up game, as they would call it, for the big 4:30 game, of course, involving Man United and Spurs. Villa have had a fantastic start to the season on. Of course, the only real blip on there was the Arsenal game, which they probably deserved at least a draw, if not 3 points.
Yeah.
Of course, got a great start in the Champions League as well, beating Young Boys 3-0 away. First time in the Champions League, always difficult. Playing on a plastic pitch away in Switzerland, and they got a great one. And they also rotated a lot of players midweek in the League Cup, and of course got Wickham, or beat Wickham. So Villa have had a great start to the season. When a lot of people thought maybe after the international break, we'll see how they cope with Champions League, cope with League Cup, Premier League in there as well. Of course, 1-0 down last week and come behind again. So Villa have been digging deep to get ones and playing quite well. Ipswich, it's a rude awakening to the Premier League, but of course they were probably outplayed last week by Southampton, and a bit like Spurs, Southampton can't put the ball in the net at times, and they conceded the last minute to flag the goal. So that was a dagger for Southampton, but a big point for Ipswich. I think that's their 3rd point in a row. They've had 3 draws after the opening 3 defeats to Liverpool and Man City. They drew with Brighton away, they drew with Fulham at home, and they drew last week away at Southampton. So they steadied the shape a bit, Ipswich. But you'd have to make Villa huge favourites here, wouldn't you?
I can't see Ipswich getting anything out of Villa here because, as you say, a lot of people, including myself, predicted Villa to struggle this season because of the demands of the Champions League and how different the Champions League is this year. You're not going to be playing easy teams every game. Like, you're going to have tough games on there. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they have Bayern Munich, don't they?
Bayern
So
Munich at home this week.
that's going to be a test, especially the way Bayern are playing at the moment. I think Bayern have scored 22 goals or something in their last six
Yeah.
games or something like that.
Companies let the shackles off some of them attacking players. They were sort of strangled under Tuchel. I think he's letting them play, and look, it's going well at the moment for Bayern Munich, but of course there'll be bigger tests they come. But I think
They're
there's always
playing
going to be
Liverpool. They're
there was
playing
always
Leverkusen this weekend.
well, there was always going to be a drop off from Leverkusen. I thought how significant the drop off was, as we'll find out. But Bayern already looking strong favourites, and Harry Kane looks like he's aimed for a trophy. Might be ended come May. Getting back to Villa, and Onana was a player that we thought maybe we questioned the price tag, but he's proved us wrong so far.
Yeah.
Durant, Watkins, he's bringing the best out of Watkins at the moment. Watkins had a shaky start to the season, but Watkins has come to the party. Durant's coming off the bench, scoring. Also scored the other night against Wickham in the cup. So
Morgan
Villa,
Rogers too is a good wee player.
Rodgers, they have a lot of firepower at the moment. Villa. Are they looking the most likely team for that fourth spot at the moment?
I don't know. You have to throw Chelsea in there too, to be honest, at the minute the way they're playing.
Yeah, and of course they will have an easier passage in terms of midweek football. They'll not be playing the standard of teams that Villa are playing. Ipswich, Owen, son, I want to speak about. I mean, we've seen last season the three teams that come up really struggled. And this year so far, from what I've seen, it looks like it could be an uphill battle for Southampton, Ipswich, and Leicester. I know there is a couple of other teams struggling. But do you think that drop off now from the Championship, the Premier League is really showing? You know, there was teams like Wolves and teams like Fulham, Villa a few years ago were able to come up and finish comfortably mid-table. That doesn't seem to be the case anymore.
No, I think the gap is getting bigger because if you think about it, even the teams down at the bottom half at the minute, like Wolves, like Everton, Everton's just going to get a new takeover, so they're going to be able to spend again. I'm sure Wolves will be, as much as I've predicted Wolves to go down this season, and I'm sticking to that because I can't really see they'll go and beat Liverpool now. That I'm me saying that, but I just can't see where the goals are coming from at the minute for Wolves. But in terms of the three promoted teams, I think Ipswich are the best set to stay up out of them. At
Because
the minute.
Leicester have been poor. Southampton look like they can play, but they can't put the ball in the net, and they make
But,
mistakes at the back. Ipswich look to be the more, as you say, a bit like Luton last year, where they're not prepared to. They're prepared to sacrifice the style of play. They maybe stay up.
yeah, to be fair, and have you seen Luton in the Championship too? They're fighting relegation at the minute.
Struggling, of course. It'll be a travesty for them. They go back to back relegations, and of course, Ipswich were a team that went back to back promotions. How do you see this game going on Sunday?
I'm gonna go 2-0 Aston Villa.
Yeah, I'm going to go the same. Let's concentrate on today's kickoff. Wolves take on Liverpool at 5:30. Liverpool absolutely flying at the moment.
It might be Wolves under. It might be Wolves under 18s.
Well, we'll speak about that because that looks pretty likely. I mean, Liverpool had that wee blip against Forest, and people thought maybe the plasters might start peeling off, but they responded well. We had a great one in Milan. Beat Bournemouth convincingly last week. I know Bournemouth had a few chances, but Liverpool won comfortably in the end, 3-0. And they looked a wee bit under pressure. They only did 2-1 in that game against West Ham, but of course they responded and won by 5 goals. They won. Their egg yard may have played a part in the fourth and fifth goal. But that was a decent game on Wednesday night. Liverpool made a few changes. West Ham looked like they were well in the game, but Liverpool's showing that they've got that firepower that a lot of teams don't have. You think about Spurs at the moment. You look at the goals, where they're coming from. I know Johnson's had a few recently. But you kind of look at Spurs and think of Solanke and Son are that. Where's the rest of them coming at? Whereas you look at Liverpool, they've got Salah, they've got Diaz, they've got Gapco, they've got Jota, and Nunez as well. Can also score.
1-0 Man City.
Oh, is there? There's going to be a goal here. I must be behind you. Grealish has got it now.
Gundogan, I think it was scored.
Yeah, Gundogan, great. No, Gavardiol.
Yeah.
Gavardiol done the trademark, cut on with the left foot, and he's bent it into the corner with his right foot. And 35 minutes on, Man City have taken the lead. at St James's Park. Oh, and you were saying there, we were saying about the firepower that
Yeah,
that Liverpool have. Just updated that score at the bottom of the screen here. As you can see, Newcastle 0, Man City 1. They've got so much firepower in that front sort of three. Whatever five play, you always feel there's goals going to be never far away.
yeah. I mean, you looked at the players who started last night. Case's getting used to it. He got an assist. I'm counting that as an assist. um, you have Jota, you have Gakpo, Salah, Nunez. Like any one of them. Like I know
Got it
Nunez is
right.
a bit.
They scored three against Milan, three against Bournemouth, three against three against Man United a few weeks ago, and five against West Ham the other night. So
Yep.
very hardly love with teams that they can score that many goals.
Aye, and to be fair, we're sort of yes, we give up chances, but we're sort of solid at the back. We've only conceded one goal in the league and three goals overall. Like so, it's going well at the minute. Obviously, there will be tougher tests to come. We still have to play the likes of Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea, Spurs. So there's going to be tougher tests to come. But at the minute, everything's going well. Like apart from that one blip against Nottingham Forest, which was disappointing. Everything's going well, and depending on, I think, if Wolves have the team out today that we're expecting, like I can't see anything but a Liverpool one.
Yeah, Wolves at the moment. I mean, they were very unlucky last year with some decisions. This season, it seems to be injuries and things going against them again. Gary O'Neill must feel like he can't get a break at the moment. Of course, a
Yeah,
virus ripping through the squad. It looks like some under 18 players could be coming under the squad today. Well, they start or not as a different story, but it'll be interesting to see the team news come 4:30 today. But Liverpool must be rocking up here thinking what a time they play Wolves, because yes, Wolves haven't had the best results this season, but they've been competitive in the games they've been in. You think
yeah,
about the Villa game last week. It took Villa a long time to break them down. The Newcastle game, they should have won. And they've had some really difficult games to start the season. And Liverpool doesn't get any easier. Backs up against the wall for Wolves today, isn't it?
and like, I can't see anything but a Liverpool one. Even if Wolves had their full team out, I just the way we're playing at the minute, I can't see a team like Wolves getting a result. So I'm gonna go 3-0 Liverpool today.
What do you think the front three will be today for Liverpool?
Uh hmm, Jota, Diaz, Salah.
A lot of talk about Anthony Gordon, the Liverpool in the summer. Of course, close to signing a new contract we hear. But Diaz is keeping the noise quiet about Gordon because he started the season on fire. Does that rest the case now? Is Diaz part of the future, you think?
If he can keep his form up the way he's doing at the minute, there's no reason why he shouldn't be. There's always been noise that he wants to go to Barca in the future, but whether that comes to fruition or not, we'll see. But at the minute, I'm happy with all our forward options. Obviously, the one that you can't really count your hat on is Nunez, but he took his chance last week when he got it. So let's see. Hopefully that continues, and he got an assist on Wednesday. So and then Gakpo comes on, scores two goals. Salah's Salah. So it's all going well at the moment.
And you're backing a 3-0 one today to continue. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Liverpool one. Before we focus on the 3 o'clock games, Owen, we're going to speak about the final game that's not on at 3 o'clock, and it comes on Monday Night Football, a South Coast derby between Bournemouth and Southampton. Now, Bournemouth are winning a lot of people over with their style of play, but the results aren't there at the moment. Of course, went to Liverpool last week, very brave, had a goal chalked off early on at 0-0, but continued to create chances, but a wee bit inconsistent in front of goal than what we've seen against Chelsea as well. Missed the penalty, missed bag full of chances, lose that game 1-0.
Yeah.
But the signs are positive for Bournemouth, that they're going to be a strong team. Of course, they had a shaky start to last season and they recovered. Do you expect them to get better as the season goes on in terms of results?
I I don't think there'll be a team, let's say, chasing the Europe. Oh, Nick Pope, what have you done? I see, got it. I don't think he's gonna be. It's gonna be a team that's gonna be chasing like the European spots, as I was saying, but they're gonna be comfortable mid table. I don't think they're under any threat of relegation or anything like that.
Well, that was a big chance for Gundogan there. I think he has to slap Haaland on. If he slaps Haaland on, that's probably 2-0. Nick
Yep.
Pope's definitely got away with one there as we're about 5 minutes
He's
from half time.
speaking
Newcastle
of
still got Man City 1. Go ahead.
speaking of shaky starts of the season. Nick Pope isn't that a great one?
No, don't think he's the best with the ball at his feet. Good shot stopper. Southampton, Must have thought that they were going to get their first one of the Premier League season last week, but Ipswich broke their hearts with the last kick of the game.
Yeah.
Deflected goal from Morsey, the Ipswich captain, beat Ramsdale, and Southampton really should have been out of sight.
Yeah.
And the Southampton games are following a very similar path to Burnley last year, where a lot of chances couldn't take them, and then they make mistakes or things go against them, and they don't get very many points. Do you think Russell Martin's got to adapt for them to have any chance of staying up?
I well, if he watched anything that Burnley did last season, he'll know that playing this way in the league in the Premier League against, let's be honest, the mid table Premier League teams are better than the top half Championship teams.
Yeah, there's a
So
big difference in standard.
like, if he's watched Burnley last season, he should know that playing this way all season is not going to end well, and Southampton will go down.
Yeah. How do you see this game going on Monday night?
Um, I'm going to go with 2-1 Bournemouth one.
2-1 Bournemouth one. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Bournemouth one. Going to back them to get more goals. Let's move on to the 3 o'clock game. We'll start off at the Emirates, where Arsenal take on Leicester.
This could be a bloodbath.
Another possible chance for Haaland there, but the pass again from Gundogan was poor. Arsenal take on Leicester 3 o'clock. Of course, Arsenal made a lot of headlines last week with their style of play, their dark arts, as some people called it. I mean, how did you see last week's game from an Arsenal perspective? Because a lot of people weren't best pleased with the tactics and some of the things that were happening on the pitch.
Well, I don't think Arsenal fans will care if it gets them results, to be honest. But it is, as an I would say, Man City were getting very frustrated. But Man City players are this type of team where they cry at everything, and so are Arsenal. If it doesn't go their own way, they're crying, they're complaining. So I think if you can give it out, you have to take it. That's the way I look at it.
Do you think Arsenal have any complaints about the red card? I mean, a lot of people thought it was ridiculous, the sending off, but from where I thought it was Michael Oliver, no choice.
No, not for me. It was a clear red card. Like, he blew the whistle. He knew he was on a yellow card, and it wasn't like the Declan Rice one where it was harsh. He literally butted the ball halfway up the pitch.
Do you think the red card changed the game in any way? Do you think Arsenal would have come out the second half and played the exact same way, 2-1 up, defended deep?
I, th- I
Because
think I think
I
they
do
would.
think they would have done it anyway. Maybe not to the extreme circumstances they did, but they only had 6% of the ball in the second half, and they didn't have a shot at all.
I think it would have been the same. Sure, they did it last year when they had 11 men when they were drawing. Was it 0-0, 1-1 or something? So like, I wouldn't have, I don't think it would have changed much if they had kept Trossard on the pitch.
Yeah, and Man City looking pretty ominous at the minute for a second goal, but half time is approaching. Just 2 minutes plus injury time left in that first half. Of course, still Newcastle 0, Man City 1. David Raya missing today for Arsenal again. He expected to be back probably in the next game, but Neto will come on. He was at Bournemouth last year. Raya's been one of their best players this season. Is that a worry that, yes, they're not conceding loads of chances, but he's having to make saves, which are pretty incredible, that are probably not going to be sustainable. Are Arsenal as good as what they think they are at the back? Can they still be got at?
They can be got at, but for me, they have the best partnership centre back wise in the league and probably in Europe at the moment. So they are tough. They are tough to they break down and get goals against. I mean, statistically, Liverpool have the best defense in the Premier League
Yeah.
at this moment in time. So that's my stick to beat them. You aren't as good as Kanate and Van Dijk, but no. To be honest, I
Newcastle,
can't.
Newcastle are appealing for a penalty here.
I seen it. It doesn't look like one.
No, it doesn't. Maybe more in desperation than
No.
being realistic. Leicester, of course, will be a different opponent to Man City and Atalanta, because they were very defensive out in Atalanta as well in the Champions League when they got a 0-0 draw. Of course, Atalanta missed a penalty. Seems to be a lot of missed penalties around Europe in the Premier League at the moment.
Yeah.
But Leicester will be a different kind of team. You expect Arsenal to go on the front foot today and dominate?
I don't give Leicester any chance at all. I'm gonna go 3-0 Arsenal.
I'm going to go the same, 3-0 Arsenal. And Darren is making a 3-0 Arsenal as well. Everyone thinks it's pretty routine for Arsenal. Another big game at 3 o'clock is a London derby between Brentford and West Ham. Now, of course, Julian Lopetegui has come under a lot of pressure from West Ham fans due to the start of the season. Um, could anybody told West Ham fans they could have played it this way? Was it a mistake getting rid of Moyes? Yes, the football wasn't great, but it did get results. Um, or was it the right time for a change?
In hindsight, you would probably say it's a mistake, but I think a lot of West Ham fans were tired of Moyes. But Lopetegui isn't Lopetegui isn't an attacking manager either. He's not as defensive as Moyes, but his football isn't great to watch either. So it's not a drastic change. So I think today's a big game. If they were to go to Brentford and lose, I think he could be gone.
Darren agrees. He thinks if West Ham lose today, it could be it.
Yep.
Well, depending on how bad it is, they may wait one more week, depending
Oh,
on the
good place.
international break. It's coming up to half time here. 30 seconds left of the 1 minute added on, and it's a free kick by Trippier under the box, and it's a decent save by Ederson. And that will probably be half time. Newcastle still have it here, and might get one more opportunity to get it under the box. Barnes deflected for a corner, probably be enough time for it. So
Yeah.
Newcastle may have one more opportunity before the whistle goes for half time. I think that the Chelsea result last week was a really, really bad. They were awful. I mean, I watched match
Yeah.
today and I seen the piece that they did on them. The man marking thing went totally wrong. It was so easy
Oh,
for
good.
Chelsea. And to be fair, I think there was a response on Wednesday night against Liverpool. They 2-1. It looked very, very much they were going to get the next goal, and they conceded that third goal and then they get a red card and capitulate. But the scoreline done damage as well. They Lopetegui losing the game 5-1 after the poor start of the season.
He got injured himself on the touchline.
Well, that's that, doesn't he? He that as well. And it looks at the moment like he's blaming everybody else but himself. This isn't looking good for West Ham at the moment. They need a result and they need one today.
Yeah, I actually predicted them at the start of the season. They finished seventh, I think, and from at the minute, the way it's going, they'll be lucky to get top half.
Yeah, it is half time. It's at James's Park, Newcastle 0, Man City 1. Sorry, I won't go ahead.
So it is a big game. If as I said there and Darren said, I think if West Ham lose, maybe a draw saves them. But I think if they lose today at home to Brentford, I think it's I think it could be looking for a new manager come Monday morning.
Of course, Brentford have been fast starters in their last two games, going to Man City and leading within a minute, and going to Spurs and with leading within 30 seconds. But they've been unable to get any points, losing to Man City 2-1 and losing to Spurs 3-1. And I have to say, watching the game last week, they were totally outplayed by Spurs. I think Thomas Frank says after the game, no argument about the result. We were well beat and we couldn't cope with Spurs' press. We out Tony and without Vassa now for a number of months injured. Have Brentford got enough firepower to hurt teams? Are they able to score 2-3 in a week? It seems to be Mbeumo at the moment is the only one apart from Vassa was scoring goals, but he's injured. Apart from Mbeumo, you don't really see much threat from Brentford in that forward area.
No, and the striker that they did buy, they replaced Tony. He's out for the season, isn't he? Or he's out to Christmas. I know he's out for a good. He's out for a good while, and they're relying on Mbeumo. And he started the season. He started the season well, but he's not renowned for his goal scoring. Like I think he only got I think he only got 7 or 8 goals last season. So, I think you predicted Brentford to go down, didn't you? Are you sticking to that, or do you think they'll be okay? Because I think Brentford again. They're a team. They're a team. They're not going to be pushing for Europe, but I think they'll be. But
Well, to be honest, I did say at the start of the season, and I've seen nothing. They change their mind that they're going to be in a battle. Well, they go down or not, it's an thing, but I do think now we've got injured. The Tony replacement's injured. It's a lot of pressure on them to score goals. And you need to score goals in the Premier League. They stay up like or have a chance. And defensively, they've been suspect. I mean, against Spurs last week, the Spurs could have scored 7 or 8.
I've seen the highlights. I Spurs were
It'll be a different game today. It'll be a different game. Of course, it'll be cagey. I think West Ham need a result. Brentford could be doing a result. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw.
I agree. I'm going to go for a 1-1
draw. Chelsea take on their favourite club they buy players from at 3 o'clock as well. Chelsea have had a great start to the season after that bad result against Man City in the opening day. People were questioning Maresca, will he be the man? But they've responded quite well, and they're sitting where they'd want to be on that top four spot, or around or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Have Chelsea surprised you how they've recovered after that opening day defeat to Man City?
Aye, to be fair, they have. I thought it was going to be like one of them. Still could be. We're still early on, but the signs are that they're going to be a tough team to beat. They're not great at the back. I will say that you can get at them. But their firepower, as you say, with Liverpool, like look at Chelsea's firepower. As much as we laugh at Jackson, he's been good this season. And Kunku can't get a game from the start. They have Neto, they have Mudrik, they have Sancho. Like it's
Palmer,
Palmer. Am I missing somebody? I feel like I'm missing somebody.
Joao Felix.
Jov, it's like it's an embarrassment of riches up there. But they've surprised me. They've been good to watch. But I think this will be a difficult game today for Chelsea.
Brighton playing well, of course, as well. They've had a
With us,
decent start.
they don't have their manager today. He got sent off last week.
He got sent off, but I believe Brighton are still unbeaten. Yeah, 2-1s and three
Yeah.
draws. Of course, they won their first two, but it's been three draws since. And they drew with Forest last week, 2-2. Brighton capable of scoring goals, but letting goals in. This probably be the pick of the 3 o'clock games to watch in terms of entertainment. Do you think?
I'll be keeping an eye on it anyway. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go.
Forward Heads joined us, by the way. Good to see you, Forward.
Well, what's happening? I thought he was dead, but here we are. I'm gonna go 2-2.
I'm gonna go 1-1 actually. But
1-1.
quite entertaining to watch. I think it could be one end games where teams miss chances, but plenty of them. Everton take on Crystal Palace in a huge game for Everton. A lot of rumours about Sean Dyche, the new owners that are coming in. Not a fan of this style of play. So that always makes it more difficult. And he has to get results, doesn't he? Now, because they're conceding a lot of goals, Everton. And they're unable to hold on to leads. Two things that you don't really associate with Sean Dyche teams. It's not looking good for him.
No, and as you said there, especially because there's new owners coming in, and new owners will look at it and be all, is he the man to take us forward? Especially when there's managers out there like I've seen Graham Potter, but he gets mentioned with every job at the minute. But why would he want a job when he's getting paid 200 grand a week still from Chelsea? It's like so
he's on the gardening leave, isn't he?
he's still getting paid a handsome, but it's a big it's a bit sorry for it's a big game for both teams because Palace haven't started great either, and everyone was expecting them to kick on from last year, but maybe the new
But I
manager.
do think with Palace that they're the border behind the manager.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I don't think there will be any risk of them getting sacked. But if Palace were to lose today, there would be questions asked. But Everton they can score goals, but as you say, they're conceding. Like if Everton go 2-0 up, the fans aren't even comfortable going on the 90th minute.
Yeah.
So which isn't a good sign. Like so, again, this is
These are both teams. These are both teams that haven't won a game in the league this year. So
Yeah.
maybe one gets off a mark today, or possibly an hour draw. I'm leaning on a draw, to be honest.
I'm gonna go 2-1 to Crystal Palace.
I'm going to go 1-1. Everton
1-1.
Palace 1-1. Who have we got next?
Forest and somebody, isn't it?
Forest. There's one more before Forest, I think, is there? No, that's it. You're right. No, that was the last one. And the final game we have to preview is Nottingham Forest against Fulham. Of course, Fulham are flying, especially at home. The new signings of Smith Rowe, Nelson coming on loan has been brilliant for them. Traore looks like a man reborn, and and Jimenez as well looks like he's back to his best. So
Yeah,
all going well for Fulham, but they are notorious strugglers away from home. Forest, of course, unbeaten, but they've probably had a favourable start to the season, or in the Anfield trip, which they
Yeah.
actually got 3 points on.
they're missing Gibbs White today as well.
Will he be a big loss? I mean, let's stick with Fulham because everyone thought maybe that Paulinho would be a huge loss, but at the moment Fulham are they're playing on the front foot. They're good to watch. More flair players on there. We Smith Rowe, Nelson, Traore. It's decent to watch.
Aye, they're a decent wee side for them. They're a club that always seem to be, since they've come up the second time, they always seem to be like lower mid table or bottom half. So I think with these signings of Nelson and Smith Rowe and even Awobi too, he looks decent this season. And as you said, Jimenez is looking back to his best. This could be a decent wee game too if people want to watch this one as well. But in terms of Forest, they've had as you say, apart from beating Liverpool, they've had a decent start, and Fulham are strugglers away from home. I don't know how to call this one. I might go for a 1-1.
I only go the same. 1-1's my favourite scoreline today. I think
Yeah.
1-1 Brentford, West Ham, 1-1 shit. I'm going to go for 4-1-1s there. I do
Yeah.
think a lot of these games are tight. I think the only game you can be certain of a victory in the 3 o'clock is Arsenal. I think that's the only.
Yeah.
The rest of them are all tight. So 1-1. Forest, of course, they've started the season quite well. I mean, they're a team that suits Nuno, don't they? The counter attack. You've got Alanga, Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs White. He had that at Wolves, wouldn't he? When he had Traore and he had Jota and he had somebody else.
Jimenez.
They were very, very good at defending and not giving anything away and then hitting in the counter attack. So
Ruben Neves as well. They had.
Matinho, so they're a decent wee team, and Nuno looks to be building something summer at Forest. Oh,
Yeah.
and that is the 10 games this week that are on. What are you most looking forward to? Of course, other than the Liverpool game.
Um, probably Chelsea, Brighton, and United Spurs would be the two.
Yeah. Of course, Liverpool back in Champions League action this week. Who do they play this week?
Bologna.
I'm hearing there's a lot of tickets available for that game. Is that due to the prices or?
No, but I did see I have a friend who's going over it, so he said there was easier to get than normal. So I don't know what the case is there.
Same with Spurs. They aren't. Of course, in the Europa League, there was a lot of tickets available. I think
I
just
thought
the
I thought the
rising costs of football to go to a game now is quite severe.
I thought the atmosphere at Spurs on it was bad.
I think the stadium was 3/4 full. I think there was still nearly a quarter of the stadium empty, or there was maybe out of the 60,000, there was at least 10 to 15,000 seats. So even though it was only £30, I think just the rising cost of football, the standard of opposition. I think when they play Roma at home, there'll probably be a sellout. But
Yeah.
other than that, when they play the Elfsborgs and teams like that, people are probably just thinking, "I'd rather keep me £30." And of course, it doesn't help when you have Man City in the League Cup. People want to go to that game, so they pay extra for the League Cup games, so they'll want to go to that. League Cup draw, Spurs, Man City. I mean, Ange doesn't make it easier himself. He says he's going to want something. Man City standing his way early on in the League Cup.
Aye, but Pep, as we said there, or as I said to you before we came on, Pep said he's going to play his second team, but their second team's probably better than Spurs' first team.
Some interesting draws on that. Spurs, Man City, Brighton, Liverpool, and if Newcastle beat Wimbledon in the rescheduled game, they'll play Chelsea. So some big hitters going out early on.
Aye, hopefully we can get past Brighton and defend our trophy. The thing about the League Cup is, like, if we had went out on it, I wouldn't have been bothered. I only really care about it until when it gets into the semis, quarters sort of stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We'll finish off by chatting about Derry because there is a question. We'll finish off just in time for the start of the second half of this match. It is just in the final break before the second half kicks off. So final question, Owen. Derry last night, we did sort of mention it at the start of the show there. 2-1 defeat to Drogheda. Rovers well beaten by Pats. Everyone was thinking they might be the threat, but Shelbourne's point at home to Sligo last night feels like 3 points now. And Derry don't play now in the league until next Friday, and Shelbourne actually play 2 league games, albeit difficult ones, at home to Pats and away to Shamrock Rovers.
I think we're in the Cup next weekend.
We're in the Cup next weekend, and then we play Bows and Sligo the following week in the league. But Shelbourne will now have played 2 games more before Derry kick a ball again. And if they were even won one of those, I know they will play the extra games, but that'll be a 7-point gap, and Derry only have 5 games, so they have to win. Well, they have to win 3 really. They get back at them, and Derry needs snookers now. I think Shelbourne. If Shelbourne were to lose both these games, yes, it plays on the Derry's hands, but I think 1-1 from Shelbourne in the next 2 makes them difficult to catch because Derry's away form so bad.
Yeah, it is. I only seen the second half of the game yesterday, and it was just you text me at halftime saying it was an awful game, and the second half didn't improve much. And to be honest, I think the standard of the league this year has been absolutely shocking. Like, because you look at Shelburne, they haven't really pulled up any trees since the start. They've been dropping points. When teams drop points, our teams drop points, so nobody's really capitalizing. So if I was,
I would love to see a stat compared to previous seasons. It's a very low scoring league. Doesn't seem to be
yeah,
a lot of goals. I mean, a lot of Darius games away from home are 0-0 or 1-1-0 or lose 1-0, and it was 2-1 last night. But I mean, there's 3 goals, but it wasn't a there wasn't a bag full of chances in the game.
no,
And
it's
Derry's away
very
form. I mean, if they don't win the league, it's the away form that's cost them because they've only won, I believe, 4 games away from home all season.
and as much as we want there, they
Like,
won
they've only 3 left. They've won 4 of the 16 away from home. They've got
I
2
know
more away games.
that's shocking, and obviously you want Derry to go on and win the cup, but the thing Derry fans want is the league, and
Well,
this
it
is
could be very toxic in the Brandywell for the Bows league game if Shelburne were to get a couple of results and Derry lose in the cup. I think it will
yeah
be very toxic because people will think the season's over.
yeah. Well, put it this way. Derry haven't won a league in my lifetime, so and I think you might have been just born as well.
I think I was just coming out of the one, to be honest, when they were only in last month. They're supposed to have the best squad in the league, but the defence last night was shocking and nothing going forward. I would disagree. I would say second best behind Rovers,
Yeah,
but definitely they shouldn't be losing the league to Shelburne over
I think
36 games.
some of the crossing last night was really infuriating. Like the set pieces, it was just
The lack of confidence away from home at times is worrying. Like, it doesn't seem like they believe they can win all these games away from home. I don't know.
Do you think that's they come from the coaches, or do you think that's just the players? Or
Hard to put your finger on it. But out of the last 5 games, I think they need at least 4 wins. They get their hands on that trophy, at least 4 wins.
I
So
was
they can't
reading,
really afford any more slips.
and I heard a stat last night that Derry have only won one of their last 6 league games as well now. So
Well, that's it.
it's not
They
it's
have
not
to they have to hope things fall for them, and when they hopefully get past Bows in the cup, they nearly won those back-to-back home games against Bows and Sligo, and
yeah
pick that into the 2 away games that follow against Dundalk and St Pat's before they face Shelburne in the last game. They need to get themselves into a position on the last day where they're at least within 3 points, and their goal difference is slightly better at the moment. So
yeah.
if it stays that way, a 1 on the final day will be enough. But
You,
at the
you just
minute,
don't have the confidence that Derry can do that at the minute.
no. But I'm sure we'll speak about it before before the next game. But the players are back out on the pitch for the second half of Newcastle against Man City. Currently, Newcastle 0, Man City 1. This was your weekend preview to all the games this weekend. So wherever you're doing, enjoy the rest of the football. We'll be back next week to discuss the fallout from all these games. And we'll see you pretty shortly. If you're new around here, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more content. Owen, thanks very much, and I'll see you soon, my friend.
Cheers, lad.